In this video, I'll be completely reworking every single aspect of my game. Or at least that's what it sometimes feels like. Hi, I'm Levin, and my game is a somewhat unique hodgepodge of mechanics and ideas. I'm combining fast-paced bullet hell combat with strategic turn-based strategy, and currently I'm just trying my best to make both sides of the system work together in a fun way. But I keep running into the same issue. When I'm playtesting, I just don't want to go back into the plan state. Currently, it feels like an unnecessary break from the combat, and I definitely do not want this for the final game. I'm a solo developer, and that can be daunting at times, as I have pretty big plans and goals for this game. I'd like to have a unique combat system, lots of enemies and some bosses, a progression and a job system, and a nice story to top it all off. But it can be really hard to figure out where to start. So I'll be talking about how I'm handling that aspect of development later on in the video, but right now it's time for some development. Whenever you enter battles, there's this little animation that plays, and I really don't like it, so I removed it. Now you go right into combat, and this is much smoother. Another small task that I got out of the way was adding a reloading system, as I have guns in the game but they don't reload yet. This reloading system works with all weapons, and I can easily repurpose it if I need to. There isn't actually ammo in the game, you just have to reload after firing a certain amount of times. And they also animated and implemented some reload animations for the guns, plus a little reload bar over your head. But the biggest change that I decided to make to the game was a brand new system to spice up combat. Currently, combat is basically just pointing at enemies and holding down the left mouse button. There really aren't any other options, other than switching party members, so I decided to take inspiration from Risk of Rain 2, and have some other abilities for you to use in combat. Each job will have different abilities, which should really help them stand apart from each other. Using the planning program Millinote, I set up job progression trees for each character. These Millinote boards are not finished yet, but they are a great place for me to brainstorm ideas. And so the first job type that I decided to make was the ninja job for Liam, the melee party member. Each job will have two combat skills that they can use in battle, the secondary skill and the utility skill. The secondary skill is generally going to be a pretty quick move of a short cooldown that can be used in conjunction with the primary weapon. And for the ninja, I decided to once again take a page from Risk of Rain 2's book and add a ricocheting shuriken. This bounces between enemies after hitting one, and it is great for crowd control. Although you need to have at least two enemies with similar health levels near each other to take advantage of it, which already adds a lot more thinking to battles whenever you use it. The utility skill probably needs a little bit more work though for the ninja. I started out by making a camouflage skill, where you can turn invisible, which made enemies stop targeting you and also allowed you to dodge the first attack you were hit with after giving the camouflage. But in practice, this skill felt very uninteresting and useless. So while I haven't done it yet, I plan on reworking it into a decoy skill, where you place down a decoy where all the enemies then attack. This should allow you to reposition like the old one, but also synergizes with the shuriken by grouping enemies together by the decoy. Finally, I plan on adding a new passive skill to the ninja, where if you avoid taking damage for around 10 seconds, you go into camouflage mode, where all your attacks deal more damage, and you dodge the attack that knocks you out of camouflage mode. I like this idea a lot more, but I'll have to see how it plays first. Let me know in the comment section below if you prefer the idea of the new version, and also any suggestions for jobs or combat skills are welcome. So after this, I took a bit of a break from combat skills to add wave battles to the game, which was pretty simple. And I also added some spawn indicators that show where these enemies are about to spawn before they spawn. The art for these indicators is placeholder though. I also tried out a 2D lighting asset with mixed results. And I set up the base for a simple dialogue system, and I fixed some bugs. And also at this point in time, I tried out making neutral rooms, where enemies aren't aggressive unless you attack them first. And I actually spent a lot of time on this, but I eventually decided to shelve the idea for now as it really just did not fit with the game. Maybe someday I'll be able to come back and make this work well, but for now I'd really just focus on the structured combat and get that feeling perfect before I add all this other junk in. But at this point in development, I've been working on the game for a while, 100 days in fact. So I decided it would be a good idea to take a breather and make sure that I am setting goals and working efficiently. Honestly, I do not think that it's possible for me to complete my vision for this game by myself, especially with my current experience and skill set. So if that's true, then what should I work towards while I'm still in solo development? Well, I decided that I'd build a vertical slice of my game. That means that I'm making the base for every single aspect of the game, just not much content. The main aspect that I'm focusing on now is the battle system, but after that I'll get to making other ones, like progression, world design, the engine, tools I'll need to make the game, menus and UI, and some base art for the game. There's a lot of work to be done before it reaches a vertical slice, and I plan on demoing smaller parts of this game well before I get to a completed vertical slice. But the point where this vertical slice is done is when I can properly change my focus to making content for the game, and also the point that I think would be best to possibly bring others to work on the game. So yeah, that's my plan for surviving solo development. Let's hope I can make it. But coming back to current development, I decided to fix status effects. They've been broken and weird for a while, so I reworked them. Now there's a new UI that shows what status effects you have, and they also actually work now. And this is important, as Yuri the Archer and Ava the Mage are going to have combat skills that heavily use status effects. The job I'm making for Yuri is a simple archer, and this job is all about one thing: dipping arrows and stuff. The utility skill gives you 10 stacks of arrow dip, which makes your arrows apply a status effect when shot. But this utility skill has a long cooldown, which is where the secondary skill comes into play. The secondary skill is a charge shot. After a moment of warm up, it shoots a massive piercing arrow that does a ton of damage. And for each enemy that this arrow kills, a few seconds of time is removed from the utility skill's cooldown. That means that in order to maximize uptime for the arrow dip, you will have to make sure to finish enemies with a secondary skill. I think this will make for some interesting choices in combat and is already pretty fun to use just in testing. But another big thing that I set up for Yuri's combat skills was a system for you to modify them through the plan state. Basically, you can use plan state skills in order to change the arrow dip that you apply. Right now your two options are poison and oil, which sets them on fire. I think that these plan skills are a good way to integrate the plan state into the combat state and also allows for some more strategy, as some enemies could be weaker to fire than they are to poison, so switching in plan state is a good move. And the job for Ava will be the Apprentice, which will be a pretty early mage job which has a lot of flexibility. The secondary is the small spell, which casts a spell on the ground that creates an effect, and you can switch this effect in the plan state. Right now there are two effects you can choose from: Firebolt and Heal Mist. That means depending on which you have equipped, the usage of the small spell changes entirely, which I think is a pretty cool and versatile combat skill. Finally, the utility skill of the Apprentice is the Plasma Ball, which is a slow-moving green projectile which deals damage over time to nearby enemies. This one is pretty simple, but you can do some interesting things with it by bouncing it off walls and making it follow enemies. But the final thing that I decided to overhaul was Focus. Focus is basically the mana system for my game, and it's used by all the plan state skills, not just the magic ones. I actually got this suggestion from a comment, but basically instead of making you generate focus by skipping turns in the plan state like you currently do, it makes a bit more sense to generate it during the combat state. And also, instead of allowing you to easily dodge bullets by going to the plan state, it makes a bit more sense to make it take a few seconds to charge up, kind of like Hollow Knight healing. So I set the system up and I designed this focus bar thing. Basically, every few seconds it fills up and generates some focus, and you can increase this amount by doing certain things. The only thing that I have planned right now is killing enemies. If you kill enemies, it increases this amount, and it increases it even more if you kill them rapidly. There admittedly is not a huge difference between this and just giving you focus over time and focus whenever you kill an enemy, but I like the cycle structure and it feels good in testing, so I'm going to keep the system. I think this system really helps make the plan state more fun, as it makes charging it up kind of difficult and makes the plan state more like a reward. Whenever you get a bunch of focus from killing a bunch of enemies, you're able to go back into the plan state and either heal or possibly give yourself an interesting effect. And I think this really is an improvement. I don't think the plan state is perfect yet, but this is a big improvement. And once again, feedback on the system is welcome in the comment section, and in general. I'm going to release a demo of the game whenever I complete the base for the combat system, which is hopefully in the next few months, so be sure to subscribe for that. So the next things for me to do will be finishing up the last few things I need for the completed battle system, and then maybe making a lot of fighting rooms and even a boss fight. But thank you for watching. Bye.